Who killed Tupac? Finally, the trial is here. Why after all these years?
Well, because Keffe D was being held as a confidential informant. He was a snitch all these years.
So the guy who killed Tupac, you're saying worked for the federal government?
Yes, he was a confidential informant giving information to the government who was protecting him.
Why does the federal government care about Keffe D, though?
Because they thought the LAPD was in on it. Bloods had their own officers, and the Crips had their own.
Yeah.
So it was dirty cops everywhere. So they wanted to know, what is the connection? Is there any dirty cop connection between Tupac Shakur's death, Biggie Small's death? That's why the federal government wanted to look into this, and that's why they had their eye on these two murders.
Yo, this case just got crazy. 1996, Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah.
As a member of the Bloods, he had some beef with the Crips, right? They ran into each other that night at the sporting arena.
Keffe D's nephew got beat up by Tupac and Suge because they believed that he disrespected Death Row Records by taking a Death Row medallion, snatching it from somebody's neck. I mean, do you think it's a coincidence that just an hour or two later he gets killed right after that fight? It absolutely was revenge, on a hot plate. They asked him while he was dying who did this. He said something to the effect of, "We want to thank you for helping us grow 100,000 strong in a relatively short period of time, but we want to continue to grow and grow fast. And you could help us out by doing that, by clicking that subscribe link button on below."
The algorithm tells us that so many of you, a giant percentage of you, watch but are not subscribed. So look at the bottom of the screen. If you're not subscribed, just click subscribe now. Help us build this together. That way we can put a lot more together for you and share it with you and give you a lot more episodes. Okay. Who killed Tupac Shakur? This when we were young, 30 years ago, this man was shot dead in Las Vegas, Nevada. Finally, the trial is here after all these years. Why after all these years?
Well, because Keffe D was being held as a confidential informant. He was a snitch all these years, and he decided to write a book and talk about it, and now the government's going after him.
So we think it was Keffe D that shot Tupac that night.
It wasn't Keffe D that shot him. It was most likely Orlando Anderson, his nephew that was in the back, or one of the people in the back, but he would have shot him. He said in the book, Compton Street Legend, if I had the opportunity, I would have shot him.
Okay, and now he's coming up for trial for murder, some sort of associated bad act to this murder. I'm sure you're going to walk us through it. I know we did a podcast on this. What was it, a year or two ago you and sat down? Yeah. And you had a lot of amazing predictions that came true. I urge people to go check that out. But let's remember that night when we all got the news. Tupac had been killed. It was a massive boxing event in Las Vegas, Nevada. Somewhere in the streets of Vegas, he was in an SUV, like hanging out the window, kind of clowning around, flaunting some stuff. He had some beef. As a member of the Bloods, he had some beef with the Crips, right? They ran into each other that night at the sporting arena. He aggressively tore some medallion off someone's chest. Am I remembering correctly?
It was actually the medallion started this incident. The reason why Tupac and Suge Knight, who were at MGM watching the Mike Tyson versus Bruce Seldon fight, which was finished in a minute, by the way.
What year was that?
1996, I believe.
1996. Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah. So, and basically what happened was Orlando Anderson took a medallion, which is basically a big chain, from one of the Blood members of Suge's posse or his entourage at, I think, a Lakewood Mall in Compton or some sort of sneaker store.
Orlando's one of the Crips.
He's a Blood. I'm sorry, he's a Crip. You're right. He's a Crip with Keffe D. Yes.
Orlando's a Crip. Keffe D is a Crip. Part of the Crips gang.
Keffe D is a general. He's told himself if there was a leader of the Crips, he would be a 5-star general.
So he's a high-ranking member of the Crips gang.
He claims to be the highest ranking. He's a 5-star general.
Keffe D.
Yeah. So basically, let me tell you a story in a nutshell. Keffe D's nephew got beat up by Tupac and Suge because they believed that he disrespected Death Row Records by taking a Death Row medallion, snatching it from somebody's neck, which it probably was disrespectful.
What is a medallion?
It's a chain, basically. It's a big chain.
But it signifies some kind of respect on the streets.
Well, they had a Death Row symbol on it, so of course, the kid was probably proud of it. You wouldn't be happy if somebody came and snatched a chain. And if you saw that kid at MGM, you're going to kick his ass. So that's what happened. They saw Orlando Anderson.
Tupac saw him?
I think everybody saw him. If you watch the videos on Google, you'll see everybody saw him, and they just started literally kicking him.
Tupac, Suge Knight, other members of the Bloods gang.
Yeah, and they just started beating the crap out of him. And to me, it's always been obvious who killed Tupac.
Who?
The person that got his butt kicked in, Orlando Anderson. I mean, do you think it's a coincidence that just an hour or two later he gets killed right after that fight?
Well, it could be somebody standing up for him, an associate, another gang member.
But it had to do with the fight. It absolutely was revenge, on a hot plate.
But I'm assuming to bring the murder charge, to get the jury to convict, you got to know who pulled the trigger, who was the actual guy that did the killing. Yeah. I know there's other levels, like the person who ordered it or someone who was complicit or there committed a felony in parallel to the killing, felony murder, all that. But do we want to know who actually did it? Like, I don't know if it's Keffe D or if it's Orlando Anderson who actually pulled the trigger.
It wasn't Keffe D. Keffe D was in the front seat. There were 4 people total. One person was named Double Up. The other one was named Zip. The other one was Orlando Anderson, and the other one was Keffe D.
4 of them in the SUV.
4 of them were in the SUV looking for Tupac Shakur. By the way, they were looking for him.
The streets of Vegas.
They were literally just driving up and down looking for him, and it was Tupac's bad fate that they found him. In fact, Tupac had an entourage of bodyguards. He was going to a club named 662, which, for anybody that wants to know, 662 is the mob club. 662 is M-O, and then 2 is the B. So this was named after...
On an old school rotary phone?
On an old school rotary phone,
okay.
Exactly.
662.
So mob Pyru Bloods were what Suge belonged to. So Suge's intention was to actually get this club for himself. He put the name 662 because he was intending on buying it. And the reason why Tupac was going over there, just to give you Tupac history, Tupac was on probation for some sexual assault case in New York. He needed to do community service, and somehow, some way, they were doing a benefit concert at 662 after the Mike Tyson concert.
The same night.
The same night, which is where he was going to do the party at 662. When he drove out on Vegas Boulevard, and I've been watching the trial, all right? So people want to know.
Just started, though,
Just started. The jury selection was finished, began opening arguments, started on August 17. I've been watching Reggie Wright, one of the bodyguards for Suge. I've been watching the witnesses testify. According to the evidence, Keffe D saw Tupac passes the gun in the backseat, and either Orlando or one of the other people shot him and killed him. This still makes it conspiracy to kill. It doesn't matter if Keffe shot him or not, but he's not the shooter. But he ordered the hit. So the person ordering the hit is just as responsible as the people that are doing the hit.
Tell me again, what do you think happened? Because you said Tupac. So Tupac, you're saying Tupac saw the SUV creeping up on him?
Well, Tupac did see the SUV creeping on him because Tupac, according to Keffe D and his account, tried to jump in the back seat because Tupac saw coming.
So how did they find him? You said that these 4 gentlemen were in the SUV cruising around Las Vegas Boulevard late at night looking for Tupac. What is the moment when they find him? Do they come up on him from behind, see his SUV? Is he in a large car?
He's in I forgot what kind of car he's in, but there was another group of people, girls, that saw him. One of them recognized Suge Knight from the neighborhood because a lot of people from Compton came to Las Vegas to watch the fight. And they noticed that there were people in the car. To be perfectly clear, the people in the car were, as I said, Terrence Bubble Up Brown, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, who was his nephew, DeAndre Freaky Dre Smith, and Duane Keffe D. Those are the 4 people that were in a car.
Do we know who's in which seat?
Keffe D is according to his Compton Street Legend book, is in the passenger seat. I think Terrence Bubble Up is driving, or Freaky is driving. Orlando's in the back seat. He passes the gun to Orlando, or it was maybe DeAndre.
Do we know
one of them shot?
Do we know the moment they saw Tupac?
Yes.
Do we have some testimony of things that they say?
So one of the girls testified that they took the last picture that you see of Tupac Shakur alive was taken by that girl that saw him. There's a picture of Tupac looking. You'll see it where Suge is looking at a camera. That's the girl took him. They said, Tupac, and they took a picture of him. Mm-hmm. Right around that, one of the ladies testified that was there that sooner or after they heard gunshots when the car was pulling away. She heard the gunshots. She was in the car, and they just took off. They went the opposite direction. I think they made a left. Suge made a right. There was some shots went off. After the shots went off, Suge tried to go to the hospital or try to get away, but his car just broke down. And basically, he gets Pac out of the car, and he pulls him out, and according to witnesses, is yelling, "Pac, Pac, Pac." And the police officers come, they take him to the hospital, and he succumbs to his injuries 6 days later.
Wow. I mean, what happens the moment that they spot Tupac? Is Tupac in the passenger seat at that point?
He is in the passenger seat.
Where the girl photographed him?
Yes. And actually, we talked about this at the last podcast. This is the only time that seatbelts actually killed somebody wearing a seatbelt, because it's believed that if Pac wasn't wearing a seatbelt, he'd be able to jump in the back seat, because that's what he's trying to do. Keffe D said that. He said he was trying to jump in the back seat. According to Compton Street Legend, which is the book, Keffe D thought he was trying to reach for a pistol. I don't think that's what was happening based on my experience as a criminal defense lawyer, since he didn't have a gun and there was no gun recovered. In shooting scenes, it's very common when somebody just jumps in the back seat and goes to a position of safety.
I mean, it's the only place they think of to go. You're in a limited container, right, which is the car, the cabin of the car, and probably your primal brain just goes fight or flight. Right. Where the hell do I go to get away from this gunshot?
Yeah.
Jump into the back seat, curl up. I don't know, man. You run out of space within a half a second. So he was pretty much a sitting duck. I mean, that's gruesome. What do we know about any exchange between Tupac and Suge in the car at the moment? I mean, Suge says, "Pac, they found us. We got to get out of here," or "Hand me the gun." Is there any attempt to fight back?
Well, Suge tries to run away from the area. He's
drive away,
and he gets shot too. The bullet grazes his head.
Wow.
And I think he's injured. I think he got shot. It was a superficial shot. But they did a headshot.
If I remember correctly, the bullet goes from Suge Knight's side past him into Tupac, right?
I'm not sure of the trajectory. I'm not sure exactly where the bullets went, but I do know that there was a magic bullet that killed. They call it the magic bullet for Tupac. There was one bullet that basically killed him. He had a lot of injuries. He succumbed to many, many bullets that were shot, but I think there was one that he couldn't. Some sort of.
How many shots were there?
He was shot a lot. In the Vegas shooting, he was shot 4 times. In New York, he was shot 5 times. In New York, in 1994, he was hit in the head, groin, and his arm. He survived that attack, but he was shot 4 times here. But these injuries were a little bit more serious because he was shot twice in the chest, once in the right arm and once in the thigh. It's the chest shots that I think got him.
So 4 bullets actually impacted Tupac himself.
Yes.
I'm assuming some missed, because these guys probably just sprayed, right?
I think they did spray. I don't know how many times they sprayed.
So they're in one vehicle shooting into the next vehicle, and they obviously succeeded. Did they take any shots?
No.
Wow.
Not to my knowledge.
So they just ambushed this guy. I mean, it's like stalking your prey, and then
they ambushed him. Then they went back to Compton, and then a war broke out between the Pyrus and the Crips, and several people died. Not only Tupac died, there was a war that broke out after that. There was like 3 or 4 people that died after that. And then eventually, I think they either called a truce or everybody just calmed down after that.
So these are the facts as we know
According
it.
to Keffe D, this is his testimony.
This is the closest we can come to sort of like conjuring up what might have happened that night. Right?
Yeah.
We did not know this in the 90s when this happened.
The LAPD did. Greg Kading knew. I mean, the police officers that wrote the books on this, they interviewed him. The reason why Tupac's murder was never solved is very simple, and it's a disgrace. The disgrace is the federal government knew about it. The federal government knew that Keffe D killed Tupac. The reason why the federal government didn't do anything about it is because Keffe D was a snitch. Keffe D was a confidential informant that was basically working for the government. He even admitted going to New York, trying to set up one of his friends, Bubble Up, to go down there, who had cancer, to set him up on a recording.
Hold on. So the guy who killed Tupac, you're saying worked for the federal government?
The guy that is being accused right now, Keffe D, yes, he was a confidential informant giving information to the government who was protecting him.
He was protected by the feds?
By the feds.
How long?
For many, many years.
Before the event?
He was an informant for 2 years.
An informant for the federal government.
So Davis officially agreed to become an informant for the Joint Task Force in 2008. The agreement followed a December 18, 2000 agreement interview where he began detailing the events of Tupac Shakur's death under a proffer agreement. And his informant status extended to 2009. He was facing heavy federal narcotics charges, and the investigators persuaded him to cooperate to avoid new jail time. And he said, guess what? I could tell you who killed Tupac. And then they said, really, who? Me and 4 people. Tell us about that. Mm-hmm. And he spilled the beans. And now the government knows, but the government's not doing anything. And the government said, fine, we're not going to prosecute you, but just keep your stupid mouth shut.
Well, hold on. They must have told him that before he spilled the beans, right? Like, if you spill the beans, we won't prosecute you.
If you spill the
Yeah.
beans,
Yes.
we're going to give you what's called a queen for a day letter, which is basically immunity. You could tell
Queen for a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
We give you immunity. You could tell us anything that you want.
Okay.
Whoever you killed, whatever you did, we're
Wow.
we'll listen. And if it's good, we'll cut you a break. So Keffe D spilled the beans and said, I know who killed Tupac.
Wow.
So they said, all right, why don't you set these other guys up, try to get them in. And he tried to set up his buddies to get arrested, but one of them died of cancer. Orlando Anderson died from a murder. The other guy got popped for a murder. So everybody died. But basically this guy was a snitch, like a double agent, protecting his own self-interest while turning his friends over.
Sort of like in the mafia when someone snitches?
Exactly.
Okay. Why does the federal government care about Keffe D, though?
They don't.
Why is he a good snitch for them?
He's not a good snitch. He's just a good source of information, and they wanted to take other people down, and he was basically a tool to do that
For gangs?
for his purposes, Keffe D's purposes.
Okay, but this is my question. Federal government, why do they care? Is it because they're trying to bring gangs down?
Well, they're trying to close the case out. They're trying to figure things out. What happened to Tupac Shakur? They want to know, and they specifically want to know what happened to Tupac because they thought the LAPD was in on it. At the time, LAPD had the Rampart scandal going on. There were LAPD officers that were acting as bodyguards for Suge Knight, including Reggie Wright, who actually testified. He was a Compton sheriff. So the federal government is very interested in knowing what involvement does the LAPD and law enforcement have in this.
Okay, but help me understand, because there's a crime taking place in Las Vegas, Nevada. On the
Yep.
streets of Vegas, somebody's shot and killed.
Yes.
Normally, that would be a police matter for Las Vegas.
And it was.
For Nevada.
Yes.
State level, city level. But you're saying the feds, the federal government,
Yes.
has some particular interest in this case because it's Tupac, or because they suspect that state level or city level agencies are corrupt,
Both.
or
So
in on it.
that's what they thought. There was a allegation at LAPD. They were moonlighting for rappers on the side, which is true. Bloods had their own officers that were protecting them. Reggie Wright was one of them, and the Crips had their own. In fact, it is believed that one of the Crips officers was the one that killed Biggie Smalls. Different story, different show we could do. But this is the reason why the federal government got involved. Rampart, if everybody wants to Google, Rampart was a big scandal where officers were planting drugs on people.
Right.
Rafael Hernandez was convicted. He was a Rampart dirty cop.
Yeah.
So it was dirty cops everywhere. So they wanted to know, what is the connection? Is there
Wow.
any dirty cop connection between Tupac Shakur's death, Biggie Smalls' death? That's why the federal government wanted to look into this, and that's why they had their eye on these two murders.
Yo, that's the case. This case just got crazy because I didn't realize that. I know everybody took interest in the murders of Tupac and the murder of Biggie, but I didn't understand that the federal government was actually looking at it with suspicion towards L.A., Los Angeles,
Yeah.
the city of L.A. Police Department.
City of LA was on probation for a while. I don't know if you know that. For the FBI had him on probation for 10 years for, the Rampart scandal. So they were watching it. The federal government is like the big brother of the small brother, which is the police, the California law enforcement. So the federal government has oversight power, has the power to check you out and make sure you're doing your job. And if you're not, we're going to put your whole entire department under investigation, which they did. Compton Sheriff's Department was under investigation. I don't even know if you know, before Compton Sheriff, there was the Compton Police, and they were so corrupt, they kicked them out and brought the Compton Sheriff, which is still was still corrupt. I know that because we sued them, and we made millions of dollars showing that the Compton Police planted crack cocaine and other things on my clients, which we sued and we won. So the federal government wants to know, what do you know about the Tupac Shakur shooting? Is the LAPD involved? Are they covering it up? Are they moonlighting and doing something outside the bounds of the four corners of law enforcement? So this is why Keffe D was important. They wanted to know what, if any, involvement the LAPD had or law enforcement had. What did they know? And they were getting that information from him as well as other information.
Wild.
This guy's a huge source of information. He's the John Gotti of Compton Street Crips. So they basically got the John Gotti.
Because it sounds like a different time we're describing. Today, if a famous musical artist were killed in Nevada, if Justin Bieber were shot on the street, God forbid, I don't think the federal government would really be looking into that crime, right?
If it involved law enforcement, local corruption, yes, the government will ask, is everything cool down there? Are you guys...
Right.
So if somebody says these cops did some corrupt things over there, the federal government's going to come down.
And at that point, even though the crime happened in Vegas, the feds could have just been like, hey, Vegas PD, everything cool? You guys investigating? And I'm sure there were great police officers in Nevada.
Yes.
I'm 100% sure they were on the case. They're like, yo, we got this. Stay out of the way, like in the movies.
Yep.
But for some reason, the feds were so hyper suspicious of LA because of the rampart history and other corruption in the LA Sheriff's Office and Compton sheriffs that they're like, that they offer immunity to Keffe D to snitch on the LAPD, essentially.
They were using him because they knew he was a big-time drug dealer, huge narcotics dealer.
And they wanted info on the cops.
They wanted info on
cops.
everything. Like, tell us, this is how a proffer session works, all right?
Proffer.
So, proffer means it's a snitch session. It's basically when you go down to the government, the federal government, you sit down in an office and they tell you, what do you know, Tony? Tell us what you know. And you tell them, and if they're like, that's not good enough, the Keffe D could say, how about you want the death of Tupac Shakur? You want to know who killed him? Like, oh yeah, now we're interested. We weren't interested in other shit you were telling us, but that we're interested in. Well, I know who did it. And that's what raises flags. And then they start asking questions. Do you know if the LAPD was on it? And he was blaming Reggie Wright. He was saying Reggie Wright committed Tupac's murder.
Who's that?
Reggie Wright is a former a police officer, Compton sheriff, I believe. And he's blaming him for it. He's like, he killed him. But basically, they're using a lot of police officers that are moonlighting, which I'm against moonlighting, by the way. I think it's a conflict of interest for a police officer to, after 5 o'clock, go for work from a bar, whatever. I
didn't know they do that. I mean,
they do that. It should be illegal. It should be
you see them on production sets, like movie sets.
That's okay because those are retired officers.
Retired.
That's absolutely fine. I have no problem if you're retired, you're an old cop, and you're on a motorcycle and you want to direct traffic and keep things safe.
Chilling.
But if you're working tomorrow on the street and tonight you're working for me, isn't that a conflict?
I didn't even know that.
How about if I'm the drug dealer?
Is that real?
You're working for me.
So LAPD officers can take private security?
They were doing it. They were doing private security for Tupac, and they were doing it for Suge Knight. And they were making money on that. And who knows what they were doing.
Is that legal today?
Yes. So the answer is yes. Moonlighting as an off-duty security guard or private secondary employment is generally legal for law enforcement officers in California, provided it complies with specific department rules, conflict of interest laws, and state legislative proposals. Let me tell you something. This is the stupidest law I've ever heard. Dumb. Why would you have cops lose their integrity and compromise their integrity to get paid for somebody? Because there's a conflict. You'll do whatever the guy wants. He's your boss. And how about if I hire that same cop that maybe I'm the drug dealer. Maybe I'm the one that's hiring the cop so he doesn't keep his eye on the ball. It's a stupid rule. That's what was going on during this time, during these concert events. These cops would act as security guards. And according to Keffe D, if you believe him, which I don't, he's a pathological liar. He's even said he's a king embellisher. Some of these cops allegedly were involved like in criminal activities. So That's why the federal government was asking Keffe D if it's true. Because if you keep mentioning that law enforcement officers are doing these things, then the federal government's going to say, okay, let's take a look at it. If you didn't have this moonlighting thing, we wouldn't have law enforcement oversight as much, in my opinion. Why are these cops moonlighting on the side and doing that? It ruins your integrity. It's a conflict of interest, and the list goes on and on.
Right. How are we doing today in relation to the Rampart days? Is it better? Is there less corruption across the police department?
Well, as a defense attorney, I haven't seen that level of corruption, that kind of level of corruption. But of course there's corruption. There's absolute corruption. The question is, where is the corruption and can we expose it? So criminal defense attorneys and civil rights attorneys, in my opinion, are the arbiters of justice. We look for the injustice in these kinds of cases and we expose them. I've done that many times, by the way. But the sad part is, even the cases that we've exposed where there's corrupt cops, they don't fire them. They promote them.
What?
They promote them. The prosecutors that lose these cases become judges. There was a period in time where I sued police officers in the state of California. We made over $10 million in a 5-year period, and all those officers that were deemed to have violated laws, violated the color of authority, and violated civil rights were promoted.
Okay.
Basically, what the government is saying, even though you won, screw you, RJ. We're going to keep doing what we're going to be doing.
Okay, but do you feel like the level of corruption has come down?
It has.
Why is that? Some of the wheels are turning, the gears are turning, some of the corruption's being pulled out.
This is why. Look at my fingers.
Meaning what?
They paid a lot of money. It's easier to reform and hire better officers than it is paying millions of dollars out.
Okay, so we funded the police a little bit better, thereby we reduced corruption.
We didn't fund the police. We punished the police.
Okay.
We forced them to pay millions of dollars, in which in California, the supervisors, there's 5 kings in California, the supervisors who run the budget, basically took a look at the budget and said, oh, RJ and all these people that are suing us, we got to do something about that. We can't keep paying out $10 million in civil rights cases.
Okay, so we fined the police department.
So we did a backdoor reformation. Basically, we sued the crap out of them until they realized they need a change.
Okay. So it's a little bit better shape than it used to be.
Yeah.
In terms of corruption.
Well, I'm proud to say I haven't sued for civil rights violation in a long time, because there hasn't been on my watch that kind of violation anymore. If you take a look over here, or over there, sorry. So I have, if you take a look, back in the day, that's all I did. Back in the day, that's what I was known for. People called me all the time and they said, a cop planted coke on me, a cop, did something illegal for me. I'm not getting those calls anymore, those kinds of calls. They're very few and far between.
Okay, so back to the case, the murder. So we know that the feds were suspicious of the LAPD and the sheriff's office in Compton. Is it sheriff's in Compton?
Yes.
So there's a federal investigation into the Tupac murder. Right?
Yes.
And but yet, because of this proffer agreement for immunity with Keffe D, nobody ever really heard of it. It didn't become public for a long time, for many years.
As long as Keffe D kept his mouth shut, he would have never, ever been in trouble, because the deal was, you could tell us what you know, but you go out there and you start publicizing this, that means you're waiving your right to speak about it, and we could come after you. The agreement is only as good as you keep your mouth shut. But if you don't keep your mouth shut and you want to talk about it, you and I will talk about it, Keffe D, in court. We're going to arrest you because you're bragging about something that's illegal.
Is that explicitly stated in the proffer agreement they did with him?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
So there's a clause in there that says all of this is contingent upon you keeping your mouth
yes,
shut.
and the lawyers actually argued about the fact that it was a violation of his rights, because you gave him a deal saying that you wouldn't prosecute him, but the government said, you started speaking and writing a book, by the way, to make money on that, and because you did that, you breached the agreement, and since you breached it, breaching means the agreement is now null and void, we could come after you. I mean, this guy's a moron. All he had to do is keep his mouth shut, and nobody would have ever known who killed Tupac Shakur.
Ouch. But he bragged and he talked about it on podcasts and talk shows. He wrote a book. He's trying to make money.
Right.
Sort of taking credit for being the only sole survivor of the SUV.
And the reason he did that is because Greg Kading wrote a book about it, about who we knew. Because Greg Kading was the cop that spoke to him and asked him, Keffe, what did you do?
Right.
And Keffe got upset that he was making money on it. He was like, wait a second, that's not fair. He's making money on it. I could do the same thing.
Okay.
I'll charge $20 a book, which is what his book cost.
Okay.
He figures if 1 million people buy it, hey, that's $20 million I could get in my pocket. Plus, I already told the government knows I killed him. What are they going to do about it? But Keffe D, you're a moron. You shouldn't have talked, because it says in the agreement that if you talk, the government's going to come after you.
Why did he not know that?
Because he's playing coy. He's playing footsie with the government. The interviews that he told were in hypotheticals.
Got it. He didn't really say. He's trying to walk the line in a clever way.
If it happened this way. It would
OJ style.
OJ style. Yeah. If I did it, this happened this way.
What was it?
If I did it.
If I did it.
Yeah, I think OJ's book was called If I Did or something. Or If I Did It, this is how.
It was like mini if and then large I did it.
Right, exactly, to sell books. So his defense, and I said in our last podcast, could be the same. He could say, look, the whole thing is a fabrication. I made it up.
I'm just
sell
trying
books.
I'm just trying to make some money.
In fact, Keffe D was on a Jailhouse interview just last week, and I heard he was saying, man, all that stuff was just to sell the book. I didn't even read the book. He said he never read the book. I didn't even read the book. It was ghost written by somebody else based on the information that he knew about me. So he's distancing himself, is saying it's a complete fiction. So the jury's going to decide whether it's a fiction or not.
So where are we now? The trial is moving forward. Is it a federal case at this point?
It's a state case. It's in Clark County, Nevada. And right now they are in the midst of testimony. The officers have testified that Tupac died. They brought him to the hospital. They asked him while he was dying who did this. He said something to the effect of, we're going to handle this. We're going to handle this. don't worry about it. We're going to handle this. He never gave any names, street style. He went to the hospital and he died 6 days later. Suge wouldn't give any information. In fact, Suge was called as a witness. Suge is not going to testify. He said, I ain't going to testify because he's in prison. He really can't testify. He'll get his ass kicked. You just don't snitch when you're in prison. That's just a prison rule. So he can't testify even if he wants to. Not that Suge would. And at the end of the day, so now the jury's going to decide whether the fiction is real. If they decide the fiction is real, he's going to get life.
Why is it in state case?
Because he was shot in the Las Vegas Strip.
But I mean, I get that, but the federal government's the one who unearthed all this, did the agreement with Keffe that he breached, wanted to come after him.
There's no federal crime.
So they just basically referred it to the state and said, hey, boys, go after him now?
Yes. If Tupac was a federal employee, it would be a federal crime.
But so it's not a federal crime. Yeah. Totally get that. But the agreement was with the federal government.
The agreement was based on a narcotics investigation where they asked him other collateral questions that brought up the Tupac Shakur murder.
And that agreement blocked anyone from bringing a prosecution against Keffe D or just the feds? Because it's an agreement with the feds. Could it really have blocked the state, or the state just didn't know about it before?
The state didn't know about it, and that's an excellent question. If the state found out about it, would that bar them from prosecution? I would say no. I'll tell you why. There's two governments in America. There's the federal government and there's the state government.
Right.
So if for example, in R. Kelly's case, he was prosecuted in state court and in federal court.
Right.
So as long as there's jurisdiction, meaning the long arm of the law, if you insult the big brother in federal court, they could come and punch you.
Right.
So let me give you an example. If you shoot and kill somebody in your bedroom because you caught your wife cheating on you and you kill them, that's a state case. But if he happens to be a mailman delivering the mail, then you're in federal court. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it could be both. It could be state and federal now.
Right. In this case, the facts on the ground have nothing to do with federal. There's a gunshot. It's on the Las Vegas streets. Yeah. There's a car-to-car shooting. There's Tupac involved.
Right.
He's killed.
Yeah.
But the person who was involved in that murder, we think, Keffe D allegedly, later does an agreement with the federal government for immunity.
Right.
Did that immunity apply to the state of Nevada?
No.
Okay. So he's not immune from Nevada. They just don't know.
They have no idea.
And the feds are like, hey, we could give you up to Nevada, but we're not.
Right.
As long as you keep your mouth shut.
And it's a secret, I get it. It's a secret document that's filed under seal. There's no way anybody could get that copy.
Got it. So it's under seal in the court with the federal government.
Correct.
And so Nevada's going, dude, we don't know who did this.
Right.
And the feds are thinking, we wish we could tell you, but we're not going to tell you.
The government, everybody, the best kept secret or the worst kept secret was the killer of Tupac. Everybody know who did it all these years. They just couldn't touch him. Everybody, Greg Kading knew, the police officers knew, everybody knew because he admitted it. And they had evidence that he was there. They just needed to tie the ends. They just didn't know whether Keffe D would admit to it or not.
Because it was under seal with the federal government. Whatever he said was locked away, secretly kept by the federal government.
The proffer session was secretly locked away.
And that was key evidence. So then when he spoke and he went on a talk show and he wrote a book, he essentially waived that protection.
Yes.
So the feds made a phone call to Nevada and said, hey, prosecute him.
I don't know if that went that way or the state government said, game on.
Game on.
Yeah.
Like now you have no immunity.
Yeah.
Now the feds are free to share.
Right.
The test. I'm assuming it's that evidentiary value of that testimony.
Yeah, it's
like now they share it with the state.
It's all his words.
His own
there's
words.
no gun. There's no bullet. There's no witnesses. There's nothing. It's just his words. If they believe that Keffe D confessed, he's going to go away. If they believe that he's lying and he did it just for money, it's fiction, he might get a hung jury or he may walk.
Did he make any money?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Who bought the book? I mean,
I did.
That actual book?
Yeah.
All right.
I bought the book, Compton Street Legend. That's how I based it on. Also, Greg Kading's book. I read that.
Did you buy it just for our podcast?
Yes.
Okay, but I mean, did kids go out and buy it in the millions to make this guy the money that he wanted?
I would be surprised if he sold 1,000 copies.
Right.
He probably didn't sell anything. But in his mind, he's like a big general, and who wouldn't want to know? I mean, actually, if he did it right, had the right publicist, he probably could have sold millions of books. But nobody even knew he wrote the book. He did it self-published. It wasn't distributed right. You know how it is at the movies. You could have a big movie, but if nobody knows about it, nobody's going to go see it. You got to advertise it.
Right.
Right. Even Tom Cruise got to put down his commercial somewhere to see that you got a new movie.
Right. That gets tricky, right? Are you allowed to make money out of that crime? Like if you
No.
You're not.
No.
That money gets forfeited under some, is it a federal or state
Slayer
law?
statute.
Slayer statute. Is that federal? It's got to be. If it goes across all 50 states, right? To protect.
Yeah. No, Nevada has a Slayer statute.
So I'm guessing all the states have it, right?
47.
Should we shout out the state where you can go kill someone and make money right now? The 3 states, guys, that you don't do that.
All right, let's see the states. All right.
Let's go.
A few states, if you kill somebody, you can make money. Texas, Missouri, and New Hampshire do not have formal Slayer statutes. So take that for what it's worth.
Take that as you will. Okay.
Texas, I could see.
They
got a lot of guns and a lot of litigation. Missouri, that's strange. And New Hampshire, that's even more strange.
RJ, a word for the people at home?
We are the only podcast that does deep dives for every legal case in America where pop culture and crime meet. So just click on that subscribe link below and join us.